I'm going to call the meeting of the boards together here on January 16th at 6:32. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Tom, do you have a flag? Right back. Oh, thanks so much. I appreciate that. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks everybody for coming. Sure we appreciate it. This has multi-facets of why I came up with this idea last year for the first time, and obviously this will be the second year of having all the boards and committees together to talk about potentially goals and what they're doing, what they need from other organizations or other people or grants, or we can talk about pretty much everything, just how your organization is running over the course of the last year and what you project for the next year. I'll start with some introductions. Myself, I'm John Kaplis. I'm the Chairman of the Board of Selectmen.
Cameron Forts, Vice Chairman of the Board of Selectmen.
Julie Richard, Selectman. Diane Haley-Brooks, Selectman.
Doug?
Doug is on a business assignment.
Understood. Okay,
this
great.
week and not able to be with us.
Okay, super. Before we move on any further, Ms. Haley-Brooks, would you like to take a moment to address the crowd, the group?
Thank you to my fellow board members and Carter for the opportunity to speak here before the boards and commissions. I am here this evening to talk to you about my absences over the past few months. Last winter, I was very sick with pneumonia and acute bronchitis. Throughout this, I tried my very best to keep working both my real estate job and my job for you on the board. On one occasion, I had to be taken to the ER from a meeting with a serious asthma attack. It was then that I knew I had no choice but to rest or I would end up in the hospital. My illness lasted into the spring, and even though I didn't feel quite right, I began the work of multitasking once again on overdrive. I handled it fairly well until late summer when the walls around me began to collapse. Instead of a physical illness, my mental health started to suffer. I was always in control and confident in my decisions. When a death in my family came in early October, my mental health issues came at me like the lion roars, and I don't think I had grieved properly. Yet when I arrived home from Delaware after the funeral, I came to a board meeting instead. I needed to keep that grief at bay. The birth of my grandson several weeks later was a most precious event. Here I was, still trying like hell to keep my mental health and grieving at bay, but I just could not. 1 week later, I was in a full-blown crisis, and I haven't been to a meeting since, until now. I am here today because I have always been a woman of truth and honor. I have always spoken what is in my heart. I have always spoken up for what I feel is right and just. I have spoken for those that feel that they don't have a voice. I have the courage to say this and felt that you deserve to know why I have not been here representing you. I had to focus on myself. I am not at 100%, and I won't be at meetings in person yet, but our policies state that I am allowed to participate remotely, and I plan to do so. It does not matter what my diagnosis is, because it does not and will never define who I am as a person. In the mental health community, we don't like labels that are placed upon us. Those are for insurance companies, not people. There are so many people that are afraid to speak up because of the stigma of mental health. I am here to stop that stigma. Mental illness or a mental health crisis is nothing to be ashamed of. It affects 1 in 4 people in the entire world. There are many places to seek help, and support in our local area. I would ask that you seek help if you are suffering. Tell a trusted friend or a family member. Please do not suffer in silence. I am not asking for sympathy. I am asking for your encouragement and your support. I will say that I do have social anxiety, of which I have never had before. So please do not come up behind me or approach me to hug me. Ask me first. I would also ask that you support the Shine Initiative through Fidelity Bank, as that program has awarded over $275,000 in grants since 2011. Fidelity Bank took the lead to make a positive impact on a social issue that is extremely lacking in proper attention and support. It shines a light on mental illness. In conclusion, I would like to thank you for your time and thank you for your support. I would like to leave you with this quote: "Our greatest strength comes from our darkest places."
Thank you, Diane. It's very nice. Mr. Mayor, we'll start with you with some introductions, just your name and what board or committee you belong to.
Robert May, Advisory Committee Vice Chair, and Capital Planning Vice Chair.
Jeffrey Bennett, Advisory Committee.
Charles Carroll, Planning Board.
Mark Marchetti, Chairman, Sewer Department.
Tom Jalaluski, Member, Sewer Department Commission.
George Andrews, Conservation Commission Chairman.
Brittany Gessner, Conservation Commission.
Barbara White, Treasurer of the Templeton Cultural Council.
Thank you. Chair, Templeton Cultural Council.
Stephanie Mayo, Tomb Restoration Committee.
Alan Mayo, DPW Director.
John Hitchcock, Community Preservation Committee.
John Brooks, Assessor, Historical Scholarship.
Doris Brooks, Scholarship Committee.
Dennis Rich, Planning Board, Community Preservation Committee, and Open Space Committee.
Eric Pollock, Municipal Management Fellow.
Julie Richards, Scout Hall Committee.
Carter Terenzini, your Town Administrator.
Jessica Butts, Veteran Services.
Sheila Pelletier, Secretary of the Veterans Advisory Board.
Mike Curry, Chairman for the Veterans Advisory Board.
John Kaplis, Selectman.
Karen Ford, Selectman.
Jason Hunt on the Rec Department, Member.
Derek Hall, Town Moderator.
David Dickey, Fire Chief.
Laura Hogue, Board of Health.
Jane Crocker, Board of Health.
Diana Morrison, I'm the Director of the Council on Aging, and I came to represent the board, Council on Aging, because nobody else did.
Great.
I am Haley Brooks, Selectwoman.
Lori Weta, Development Services.
Great. Well, we got a handful of boards here, which is a great start. Obviously, on behalf of myself and the board, I want to extend a big thank you. Yes?
There's people.
Oh, did I miss you?
Okay.
We're just watching. Leanne Roy, Deputy Assessor. Kelly Pomperon, Town Accountant.
Cheryl Richardson, Treasure Collector.
Great. Did I miss anybody? Steve Castle behind the camera. His counterpart. Again, I want to thank everybody for coming. It really, for me and for the board, it means a lot. Our purpose here tonight is to review last year, our upcoming challenges, and then have a conversation about your accomplishments, challenges, and thoughts on your directions concerning your individual boards. I'm going to start with at least with the Board of Selectmen as a whole. This year has been a stellar year for our town's finances. Completed our audit for fiscal years 2013 through 2016. We'll shortly receive the audit for 2017. Certified free cash of $1 million plus, instead of a deficit some feared. Access to credit market for Pleasant Street Pump Station. Beginning construction on new elementary school after 15 years. Increased hours at Boynton Library, which have been open the fewest number of hours in any town around. Made modest progress on our pension contributions, now at about $85,000. Made modest contributions to stabilization funds, OPEX and CPEX. Made capital investments in our equipment. We now have a functioning capital planning committee. With the assistance of UMass Collins Center for Public Management, adopted financial policies, which have never been in town before. Cut costs of retirees' health insurance by almost 50%, while continuing to provide quality coverage using the Medicare Part D prescription program. Adopted teen concepts for our financial services, areas, development, public works, and finance. The planning board adopted a new master plan. The Board of Selectmen created an Economics Development Industry Corporation, EDIC. We are now obviously seeking members. And ongoing immediate challenges for what we see going forward. Unknown state aid, school budget, and health insurance. Monies for capital, rolling stock in particular, meals tax conversation. Meeting the FY19 needs of our departments. So what I like to do is just go around them. That's the Board of Selectmen. So if anybody has any questions with that, I mean, that's fine. That's what we have done going forward and what we see in the future, what we're going to need to do. Did I miss anything?
No.
Good. Anybody else have anything to add? Julie?
I don't think you missed anything.
Okay.
We had a busy year.
Yep. I'm fine with that. No, same thing. All right, anybody have any questions for the Board of Selectmen? Obviously, we had a great year. I mean, we are moving the town forward with the assistance of everybody in this room. Collectively, we all have, the same common goal, and that's the town of Templeton. It's people, it's progress going forward, making its mark. I think having policies is the best thing because we all know where our left and right limits are. This town's never had generically, policies to guide itself. We kind of, from what I can see, made decisions, based on the best interests of, people to a certain degree, but not the policies at hand. And not having policies, you really don't have a right way of travel consistently for everybody. Because everybody has to follow the same policies. Because if we don't, and say, I'll use me as an example, so I bounce a check. Now it's before that nobody knew what happened with that check. Now there's a policy in place for it. There's a check bounce policy, an insufficient funds policy. So, but if they let me slide and then say, then Cam bounces a check.
They would never do such.
But she wouldn't do it because he's going to write checks. But then if he found out they let me slide, but they wouldn't let him slide, he would actually have a lawsuit against the town for discrimination. That's why policies are so important, because it's the same for everybody, if that makes any sense. And I'm glad that we were able to work with Collins and establish a lot of these policies to get them in place, and I think they're going to work great for us. Which committee would like to go next? You want Veteran Services?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Mike Curry, and I'm the chairperson for the Veterans Advisory Board. This year, to echo John's comments, we also had a very good year. We had our departing Director of Veteran Services, and we now have Jessica Butts as our new Director of Veteran Services, and we also have a new board member, Sheila Pelletier. Not with us tonight, probably because of the condition of the roads, is Herb Ferran, who's a Korea veteran on the advisory board. So I think we have a very good makeup of our community as far as representation throughout the veterans, exactly, current Korea, current wartime areas. But just a quick list of accomplishments over the past year. Obviously, we have continued support to the veterans in our community. That's our primary goal, our mission statement. This year, we partnered with the Lions Club and had a very nice collaboration with them. Had a golf tournament that the community turned out for, and we raised almost a little over $2,000 for veterans within the town. And that money gets donated to the Friends of Templeton Veterans, which is a continued collaboration that we have on the nonprofit side for anything that we can't support with the state's funding. Speaking of the state's funding, we provided oversight for over $100,000 of Chapter 115 benefits for veterans within your community. So I think the last count, I think we're a little over 500 veterans in the community, and not all of them do really well. And the Chapter 115 benefits that Templeton assists to get to those people for fuel assistance, for helping them get to get the prescriptions that they need, get them to the hospital and the VA healthcare facilities. A lot of that's what that money is for, and we get that from the state. We get it out of our budget, and then it comes back to us 60% back right into our 75%. Sorry. We had a continued outreach using our social media. I know that Templeton has a very vibrant social media presence. A lot of the different departments. I love the fire department. They always seem to show some of the nicer things or some of the not so nicer things that occurred on the weekend. So Templeton, we kind of think we're keeping up with the Joneses as far as social media and outreach to the veterans, and also let just the community know what projects that we have are going on. And to really finish up, we had almost 12 veteran luncheons for our town's most senior and distinguished veterans. And usually that happens over at Reno's Pizza. We have two World War II that consistently come, and some of the more distinguished veterans within the town just get together and talk about stories, and provides them kind of a nice venue to keep connected. Council on Aging helps out a lot with those luncheons as well, and as a meeting space. Anything?
I think our biggest challenge, though, is still getting the older veterans from town to their VA appointments. Council on Aging also helps with those rides, but on Thursdays and Fridays, it's usually myself or somebody else bringing the older generation to Boston or to Worcester. So if anybody has any ideas, send them our way.
Great. Sounds great. Thanks.
Any questions of us? And we continue to meet we would be meeting tonight, every third Tuesday at the American Legion in the basement. And that's when we meet every month. So if you ever want to come down and see what we're doing, that's when we meet.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Mike. Next.
Well, all right, speak first, I guess, for the planning board.
Okay.
Most of our activities since last small resolution of the school issue have been pretty much routine land transfers and following up on some regulations that we had. We tried also to do some zoning changes, which were unsuccessful at the town meeting. We've also to do a few things with, I guess.
Well, I would say the biggest thing, and you touched upon this earlier, was the adoption of the master plan. I think that's probably one of the biggest accomplishments. I think we've been working on it for, 6 years, 5 years, 6 years?
This is a long time, yeah.
So, and in the grand scheme of things, I think it's going to be very beneficial to the town because it'll help for future endeavors if we're looking for grants and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the master plan in place, it looks much better for the town. So I think it's probably about the biggest accomplishment. And like I said, a lot of the other stuff is just typical housekeeping things as we move forward with that.
It's been pretty much routine and relatively slow as far as new construction is concerned. I'll defer the CPC to John.
Can I?
Yes. Yes.
What is your biggest challenge?
Pardon?
What is your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge, well, I guess that's kind of hard to say. We haven't really had any major issues come up lately.
For the most part, at this point right now, it's fairly smooth sailing. We really haven't had any, obviously there's a little bit in the past, but at this point now, I think things are moving along pretty smoothly, and so I can't think of too many major challenges at this point.
I don't mean like projects or anything, but are there obstacles to doing your job, or, are there challenges to, projects are projects, or, obviously there might be obstacles for that, but, like Jessica said, there's a challenge for getting veterans to their appointments. I actually have like an idea for that I can maybe discuss with you, but is there challenges to, do you need something in order to do your job more effectively, or, I think that's maybe what I'm asking.
I think one of our ongoing things is always to look for opportunities to welcome new business opportunities into the
Okay.
area. And any option that we may have to contribute to that, that's what we look for.
I think that might be our biggest challenge
We
too.
haven't really had any major.
Okay.
And that's one thing, we always try to be as pro-business as we can to encourage more, to increase the tax base and to see what we can bring in here, so.
So you're definitely on board with EDIC and, okay. Okay.
Can I ask, when will the master plan be completed?
It is.
It's complete.
It is done.
It's fully complete
Right.
now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank
I
you.
believe, was it not accepted at town meeting?
I believe it was voted to be accepted.
It was
Oh,
successful.
that's right, it was that time meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Who's next? Go ahead, Mr. Flynn.
I would like very much as a member of the Board of Assessors to take all the credit for the fact that you all got your tax bills for Christmas.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
The assessor's job is to get the tax bills out in December so they can be paid in January. And I won't take any of the credit for that. She's sitting right over there. There's the reason, and you all know it. She's the reason that the tax bills go up. Because she keeps after all the rest of you to get everything that we need for the recap sheet. I will say that this year it did go pretty well. We've got plenty of cooperation from everybody, and for that we thank you. You're sitting beside me, so you're next.
Okay, what about all the other committees?
Well,
How's the scholarship thing going?
Scholarship committee.
Good one, John.
Last year, we sent, as I turned in the report today, we did a bunch of kids for scholarships, and they're beginning to come in as of this week. We sent out the first 3 or 4 checks. The Treasury Department here somewhere this year. First 3 checks, I believe, went out to kids that graduated last year. The requirement is that they finish 1 semester, give us the grades and the acceptance for the 2nd semester. That's 3 of the kids have been back to me. I suspect that within the next month we'll get the rest of them. That's ongoing. The letters are going out for this year, starting probably in February. They go out to the kids. They'll be back to the school 1st of May. We meet in May so that the kids get their scholarship notices in graduation. Historical Commission is working right now with Montechusett Area Planning Council. How's the word?
MRPC.
I get the words quite right. They're creating a map, an aerial map of the town, and each of the districts has to be located on that map, and that's what we spent most of our summer and fall doing, is getting the correct information, or the information correct on the maps that we have now. That's why you've seen us out in the village parading around looking for new names, new street names, and new addresses and whatever. So that's all up to date now. And that'll be turning over, that has been turned over to the Montechusett Planning Council.
Great.
Okay, I guess that's it.
So, I'm sorry, John. So, John, I'll ask you the same thing. What are your challenges? What are your challenges to each of your?
The only thing that I brought up to the Selectmen about the scholarship committee is we like to reshuffle the way we go about passing out the scholarships, and we're working on that, and we'll get to it eventually, because we've kind of flown by the seat of our pants, and it's been the same year after year after year, so it's fair to all the kids, but we think that perhaps we can tweak the system a little bit and improve the way we're working at it.
Is that something that Cameron was working
Yes.
on with
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
stuff?
I think you already had that up and
Yeah.
talked about it.
Anything for assessors or historical? Any challenge?
One thing that might be of interest to the veterans is to some of you, or somebody, has been encouraging the veterans to come to the assessors with their tax easements, and that's a good thing. We've got more on the records now that, because many of the veterans are granted a tax break, and a lot of them never knew it. I suspect that's our fault for not getting out to it, but you guys have done a pretty good job of getting the word spread around a little bit, because we're beginning to see an influx of people that have applied. That's good.
That's great. It's good to hear.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm also on the Open Space Committee with Dennis, and one thing that was accomplished this year is that we got a conditional approval of an open space plan that was funded by the CPC. We have gotten some response back from the state. We will need to complete a few follow-up items in order to get it fully approved, which will give us a 7-year window for which we will continue on a 7-year action plan, but also be eligible for grant funding for open space related efforts. So the Community Preservation Committee, is the body by which articles that need to seek or that are seeking access to community preservation funds shepherds the projects to town meeting. So we are always looking to hear from the citizens, from the boards, interested requests that meet the objectives of the Community Preservation Act, which is namely historic preservation, community housing, recreation, and open space. And so there's a process by which you need to determine whether a project is eligible, and one thing always is to remember, no supplanting of funds. If you've already identified funds for something, you can't then come to CPA for the money. The town bills out approximately $100,000 a year to that and gets in a state match. This past year, we were at 85% match or thereabouts. So this is about $185,000 per year that has come to the town for those project uses. And so that has not been spent out annually. We have considerable reserve. I worked with Kelly, who's doing a wonderful job of this additional accounting requirement of her. She's been great to work with in making sure that we have the systems in place. I think that's one of the important things that we do, is we have processes in place to make sure our billing is done in a timely fashion and approvals are made so that she can pay the bills, and then also that the project updates are come back to the committee so we can monitor the progress. The tomb restoration project, which was ongoing for many years, is now complete. Thank you to Alan and Stephanie and other members of the Tomb Restoration Committee. We have a wonderful example of 1800s vintage tombs out behind the First Church, and we are hoping in the spring or thereabouts we'll have a formal, celebration that we can invite some muckety-mucks like the Selectmen.
Muckety-mucks?
To attend.
We'd rather them be on our
I don't know if I should take offense to that or not.
Endearment.
I don't feel really
Another thing that's ongoing is the Templeton Grange. That project is through the Narragansett Historical Society, who owns that, but they make, as a condition, public access. When that fully becomes open to the public, the people of Templeton will be able to attend, the museum at no cost. We will likely be coming back to town meeting to complete the access requirements so that we have full handicapped accessibility through what will become the main entrance, which will be in the back of the building, but it will be the main entrance because that's the best for the layout, et cetera, and dealing with. And so working with the Historical Society and the Commission as well on that. The Scout Hall project is ongoing. That'll continue on in the coming year. One of the big projects that we had proposed was to acquire 102 acres at the Templeton Developmental Center. That did not pass at the special town meeting. After that town meeting, we learned that we were awarded the 70% reimbursement from the state to go forward on that project. So we will be bringing that back to the town meeting floor for the annual town meeting. We will be hosting some site visits so the public can see the property that we're talking about. Clearly, the small audience that we had at the town meeting, did not have a full appreciation for the value of what we're proposing to do up there. And I think everybody should remember that, while we may think that this land is always going to stay open because of where it is, we cannot really project that far into the future. So if we have an opportunity to protect something in perpetuity through legal actions, I would like to have the people have their chance to revisit that. So we will be doing some outreach in the spring to show the properties, to show that it is good opportunity for the townspeople. So other than that, I would say if getting back to what our mission is as far as the Community Preservation Committee goes, happy to talk with anybody if you think you might have an opportunity going forward. We've heard of some potential trails work that are at one conservation land. I have a meeting scheduled to talk to Carter about some thoughts he might have. We're a resource to the town, and it has enabled us to do things like move into the East Templeton School for Town Hall that we would not have had the financial resources to do otherwise. So challenges will be making sure that our processes are clear and transparent. And when we have a grant award, regardless of whether it's an organization in the community or a town entity, that we follow a similar process so that the reporting is clear and that we meet our objectives going forward. So other than that, I've been very happy working with everybody, and I'm really impressed by the financial system that we have in place. And so the other challenge is hearing from you folks about what you might want to see with the funds. Follow-up question?
Yes. I want to know if anything is happening with the emergency management building, the old fire station.
That has been discussed, but it hasn't gone to beyond that. So what we would need, what we talked about doing is getting a scope of the work. It was originally discussed to convert it, revert back to the historic structure in terms of the two doors. And then there was some discussion about determining the stability of the building before we invested any money in it. So it's a chicken and egg thing. Okay, how do you get the funds to determine the engineering requirements without voting it in? And are you voting only to do engineering surveying? So that's possible, that's feasible. So we could talk about a feasibility study for the protection of that building. We don't want to just wing it because its location there, it's been hit before, it's above the river. We know that there has been some drainage issues there in the past. There's drains to nowhere and things like that. So rather than going forward with a bunch of requests for funding, we want to get a professional status, and we'd be happy to work with emergency management or the selectmen and or whomever, and we could draft something if we get even bids or quotes on representative pricing to do the engineering in preparation for a future project that would be defined by what the scope of the engineering report would be. That's something we could talk about.
All right, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
DPW and cemeteries, buildings and grounds, I'll talk a little bit about each one. First of all, cemeteries and buildings and grounds. We're really a different department this year because we didn't really have buildings to do in previous years. So it's been unique, it's different. It's a learning curve. I think we've done pretty well with it. We are starting to see improvements in our buildings by getting a budget together that has some capital plan in it to repair some of your buildings. On the cemetery side of things, the tomb restoration did get completed this year. I'd like to publicly thank the Tomb Restoration Committee and the Burial Ground Committee. Their services are coming to a close, and I think they should be recognized at a selectmen's meeting when those boards are fully closed out. As far as DPW, doing the Office of Public Works has been a challenge. The transition's been good. The guys are great to work with. They do well together. A lot of people have noticed they've worked together on the commons or doing various different tasks. They support each other well. You have buildings and grounds guys out there plowing with the highway guys. When it's winter time, you have highway guys out there working with the buildings and grounds for Memorial Day cleanup. So I think that aspect has really done well. I think we've accomplished a lot. I've been through a lot of schooling. I went to snow and ice operations, complete streets, ADA compliance. I'm now working through tree warden for certification, so I think it's moving forward well. Our biggest challenges, which we all knew pretty much going in, our equipment, our infrastructure, our roads, our drainage system, those are huge challenges. Royalston Road is priority. It's at the top of the list. We've invested a lot in Royalston Road. Coming to 25% design, and at 75% design, we'll get on the tip list and move forward. It's been a slow process. I'd really like to see that project move quicker. I'm not sure how we can do that. The state, does what they do. We're looking at Bridge Street as a possibility for either a next Mass DOT tip list or a complete streets type project. I'm also looking at Templeton Center, where Dudley Road comes into 2A. We talked about that a few years ago, and now more than ever with the one-way around the school up there, it's difficult for people to get in around that whole system up there. So I think there's a better way to do it. That could be a complete streets project. And I've got a road list for Chapter 90. We're developing a capital plan. Our capital plan is a lot different than it's ever been. We never put all of our equipment on the capital plan. We never put road requests on the capital plan. Something that we're working very hard to do. I just sent the town administrator a copy of the capital plan that I've been working on today, and we'll be reviewing my budget again tomorrow or Thursday. So there's a lot of positive hard work going into how we're budgeting, the priorities that we're looking at, and how we manage the infrastructure. We also just got approved for RSMS. For those of you that don't know, that's a road surface management system. In the spring, a company will come in, they'll look at all your roads, they'll evaluate them, and they'll start to prioritize what needs to be done to each road and how to fix it and how to prioritize it so you get the best bang for your Chapter 90 dollars. So we got some help out there coming. So I think it's all positive. It's going to take a little time to turn things around and get things headed, in a better, positive direction. But I think we've got a good start, and I worked well with all the boards and all the department heads, and I look forward to continuing that. I've got a good relationship with Light and Water and with Sewer and all the boards, and the Light Department has been talking about giving us their bucket truck in the spring that they surplus out when they get a new one, because as you know, our motor and our bucket truck we got from them a few years ago is not all that well. So it's positive. It seems to be positive.
Right. Thank you, Alan.
The Cultural Council is part of a network of Massachusetts Cultural Councils. Every city and town has one. And one of our primary responsibilities is to distribute grants that are given out by the Mass Culture Council to every community. So we do that to increase awareness of arts and cultural opportunities in the town. We've had pretty good success. We get, I think we have 28.
We had 28 grants submitted this year, and we were able, with funds that the state gives us based on size and population, of cities and towns in Massachusetts a certain amount of money, and we get $4,800 from them. The grants that we received, the 28 that we received, total $13,835. So out of that, we have to make a lot of decisions. Sometimes we can give the full amount of the grant that has been requested. Sometimes we can only give a partial. And this year we were able to award 18 grants out of the 28.
And we try to distribute them pretty well so that the schools were able to get some, to take kids to see program performances at the Mount Wachusett College. Senior citizens had some concerts, performances. We had a concert, we sponsored a concert at the Templeton Cultural Arts and Crafts Fair in August. The steel band is brought to you by the Cultural Council. We've also tried to increase some awareness of all these kinds of programs and art opportunities by attending, participating in some of the activities. The Historical Society has had some good programs lately. We were able to help them out with some grants for publicity and their performers. And we also set up a table like at the Pumpkin Festival and the Engine Show, where we had activities for the kids to kind of get involved in the arts and become more aware of our opportunities. And I think we've spread that money around pretty well. The $4,800 we got from the state hit a lot of different populations, so that everybody gets a little opportunity to have access to arts and cultural programs that they might not have had otherwise. I think our biggest challenge right now is recruitment for the council. The state requires, we have a minimum of 5 members. Right now we have 7, but there are term limits, and so we're constantly losing people and have to bring in new people. So if you know of anybody that's interested in the arts and getting involved in this, we can have up to 23 members, so there's plenty of room for opportunity for somebody to join in.
Great, thank you, Ann.
I'm sorry. Gail, is there an application to be filled out? Is that on?
It's available online on the town website.
Okay.
I mean, for membership.
For membership,
Yeah,
yes.
the applications for state grants are available on the state level, at the state website, massculture.org.
So you said that you need people for membership?
For membership, we can use.
Okay, so I just wanted to kind of spread that around.
Because again, our
I'm writing down what everybody's challenges are.
Yeah, our biggest challenge is to try to meet so many different aspects and interests of the community. And we've been promoting a lot. So I will say, this is the highest number of grants we have received in the last several years. Last year, we were shocked. We got more than we had ever seen. This year, we got even more than that. And that's wonderful, because we're getting a little more diverse population of people who are starting to be more aware of us. And I think that's what we're looking for, so that we can hit lots of different age groups and interest areas, like the library and the Historical Society are newer ones this year, so.
Great.
Yeah, Conservation Commission. Yeah, we've had quite a few NOIs done this year, and there's 5 or 6 houses that needed them. But we've also worked with John Henshaw and with the planning board doing the thing that they were doing, the open space plan and stuff like that there, and stuff like that. It's hard to do with what we have. We have to go out and do site walks, and sometimes site walks can be very touchy, and most of the time it's been good. So we've got a good group now that we have 5 of us aboard rather than the 3 we had a couple of years ago. It makes it a lot easier with 5 people to have a quorum and more discussions at the meetings and stuff like that. Other than that, it's been pretty good.
Diane?
Yes.
Challenges, Joe?
Challenges is trying to get people to, when you write notice of intents and stuff like that, to get them to follow them and not be sneaky about it and do things they're not supposed to be doing. And that's a hard thing.
George, we're trying to be positive.
I was being very positive. You knew where it was going.
think
That's why
that
I didn't
people
say
just-
what I was saying.
Do you think that people just forget to, like, they kind of go through the planning board and they go through and they just
Well, usually,
forget?
some of them have to go to planning board first before they come to us, but most of them come to us first. Or after they go to the building department, and the building department sends us paperwork to go do the site visits, and then from there, we decide whether they need, because of the conservation, that they need to have a notice of intent.
So you feel like they just kind of sidestep you, or, I mean, because there's the planning board who says, oh, no, you forgot that, or...
No, we don't usually have that problem. Usually, I'm pretty good with the planning board. We talk things over, and,
I mean, because there must be some, forgive me for my lack of knowledge, but there must be something like when they come to
there's stuff that
the
comes
building
in.
department that says you have to do this, and this,
Right,
and
right.
you end up
And
at the planning
if
board.
I have problems, I
right?
usually talk with Laurie, and Laurie helps
Okay.
me out. And,
So, okay,
we get it taken care of.
okay, thank you.
Go from there.
I got drafted to talking about the sewer department. As you know, sewer department's an enterprise fund, so we operate a little bit differently than some of the other departments in town. And a while back, we lost our full-time office person to illness, and she wasn't able to return to work. The part-time office person was asked to step up and do a full-time job. However, she really didn't have a lot of training to do that. So our big challenge the last many months is trying to get in line with requirements of the town in terms of the fiscal reports and responsibilities and balancing the checkbook and the reconciliations and all that. And we've been chipping away at that a little bit every day. We're getting better at it. Carter and John and Cam have been very encouraging and helpful in that. I've been sort of playing Henry Kissinger, going back and forth between the town office and the sewer department, trying to get these roadblocks out of the way. And I think we've made some significant progress doing that, trying to get into line with what the new fiscal requirements are that frankly we never had to do before. We've recently found out we don't have some of the tools to do the reconciliations properly. We're working on that. And as I said, with the cooperation of the town, Carter and the select board members I've been speaking to, I think we're making some good progress. And we've had some good meetings lately. Really, there isn't much else to say about that. I'm going to let Mark talk about the capital project, the Pleasant Street pump station that we're working on. I'm sure you're all interested in that. So unless you have any questions for me, I'll go ahead and sit down. Again, you're going to ask, what's the big challenge? The big challenge is falling into line fiscally. It's been a struggle. And I think we're making some really good progress on it, so I wouldn't worry too much about that.
The Pleasant Street Pump Station project has started.
Mark, it's hard to hear you.
It is?
Yes.
Okay. The Pleasant Street Pump Station has started, construction. It's going to take, probably won't be online till fall or so. It takes a while. They started on it, they can do so much. The old station is 40 years old. We've had major breakdowns, averted a major catastrophe, anything going in the river, nothing went in the river. It should have been done years ago, but it wasn't, but now it's going forward. All our other infrastructure is pretty good. The equipment's good. Everything's staying, holding the status quo. Everyone has to remember, that plant runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It never shuts off. Like I said, highway department guys say they go home at 3 o'clock, trucks get shut off, that's it, they shut the lights off and they go home. I mean, Alan's still on duty 24/7. But our plant, all the pumps, all the plants, the whole plant's working 24/7. And so we do have unforeseen problems that do arise down there that
we weren't planning for, but we're doing good. Challenges that we have is collections, but people will not pay their sewer bill. We've been doing that for years, and everyone you talk to says, well, bring people to court, bring them to court. But, now we're put liens on their properties. We bring them to court, bring them to court, bring them to court, bring them to court, and they just don't show up and don't pay anyway. We can't shut them off. Every year now, we put the money, get sewer liens on, goes through the assessor's office, and Luann does a fantastic job. We gave her
110, I think.
110 people out of our 1,450 people have sewer. 110, 120 people will not blatantly pay 1 penny. So they go into liens, and it's getting better. And that's one of the challenges. That is our biggest challenge, is we can't have our books at zero. I mean, as in what's owed to us, it's impossible. And you can't make them do it. You ask, and it's the same people year after year after year. I mean, it's tough. It's a tough challenge to do that. Actually, what else we do? We take the road sweepings in from the town, and the state brings in to cover on the landfill. We're taking material, I think, from the Templeton Center School project is going to come down to us to the landfill, so we can use that for cover, so we have to buy cover. They're taking the stuff from the Pleasant Street Pump Station project, bringing it to us. They have to take a lot of material out, then some material will go back, whatever's left will stay at the landfill. Try to keep it as best we can to keep the rates where they are. Our rates are among one of the lowest of the communities for what we're doing. Maybe people saw on an agenda that we had a sewer department last month, the last meeting, said $2 million to be used within 30 days. Yeah, $2 million to be used in 30 days. USDA has money out there that's available every so often. And we get notified by the USDA is for a grant that if you have any projects that are shovel ready, within 30 days, they can grant this monies to be used. So it's something we have to look. It is like, it came across a few people that we had $2 million used in 30 days. But that isn't how it was. It's when it's available. And that's about it. If anybody else has any questions.
Of course. So are you doing the collections yourself?
Yes.
Yeah,
he's the nickels and dimes. I'm a nuts and bolts, so that's how
we tried all kinds of things to try to get people to pay up. We threatened to dig up their front yards and shut the sewer main off, and we got advised, legally we could do it, but it was advised against it by town council. We were taking people to small claims court, like he said, they just don't show up and don't pay. So we started the lien we have been doing liens in the past. We do it a little differently now. We notify people that they're going to get a lien on their property. And when that happens, the lien goes on their mortgage. The banks make them pay. But it's the people that don't have mortgages, there's no way to make them pay. The water department declines to shut the water off for lack of sewer, and we can debate that all night long, but I'm not going to there. So we have no leverage against them. And so we have accounts receivable out there over 120 days. Well, it was over $100-something thousand at one point. We're kind of gradually knocking it down. So that's basically what we're doing to try to collect the fees. And if anybody comes in and wants to enter into a payment plan, great. Whatever you can afford to pay us, we'll take it. You want to pay $10 a month on your arrears, fine, we'll take it. Whatever they can afford. We don't force anything on them. We've got a few people doing that. I think that's about it.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about the landfill. Do you have a lifespan of that? Do you know if have you ever heard?
I think it's like, I thought it was like 100 years, 75 years, 100 years. It's
There's been
phenomenal.
no revisitation of the lifespan of that? You haven't heard anything from DEP or?
Well, Ken could answer more to that, but it's always being updated and looked at and inspected. And yeah, I think the expectancy is like 100 years or something like that. Because the amount that goes out there have to go through the new presses and all that stuff for the weekly stuff is very minimal. And if you just, laying it out, and the dirt, it's gonna be covered daily, covered over, and then everything just settles and sinks, and it's a use.
I gotta tell you, I don't think people realize what goes on down that sewer plant. When I got drafted to run for the sewer, but I thought the sewer went down the plant, threw a coffee filter and into the river. I mean, that was my understanding. You ought to come down and have Ken bring it. It's amazing what they do down there. I mean, in terms of chemicals and pH and phosphorus and iron and all this stuff.
Are you still receiving a lot of septic pumping?
Septic? Yes.
We do. Sorry.
Yeah, what we've done on that part is, there's more and more holding tanks around the camps and all that stuff. That's very minimal to treat because 99% water. So we bring that in more than the regular septic. Regular septic, we have limits on how much can bring in, we only can handle so much. But the other stuff goes into the mainstream. So our revenue is roughly, maybe about $180,000 a year comes in from, is projected wise, comes in from septic haulers, and which helps the budget, and another challenge we have, usually me, Tom, and Kent, and the secretary are sitting there by ourselves at meetings. Anybody has questions, come on down. I mean, I know people are looking out the sewer plant, but, questions that come down to ask.
I don't blame you, though, it smells in there, but...
Great. Any other questions? None?
I already went.
You already went?
I already went. I'm good. Pass the buck.
The advisory committee, a few of the challenges we have is we're a group of volunteers, 7, and lately, some due to health, some due to jobs, not getting a quorum, but having the whole committee there, which I personally feel is better due to our responsibility. Being an advisory committee, rather than a finance committee, we have the responsibility, as outlined by state law, to advise or recommend on all warrant articles, not just financial. And one of the other challenges is getting the information in a timely manner and obtaining financial information. Recently, 4 members of the 7-member committee attended, and the taxpayers paid for it, training under VADAR, which is the financial software system that the town uses. It's been using for the accounting side for, I think, since 2012, 13, in the middle of fiscal 13, I believe. Anyway, we got training on that so that we can now go into the accounting part of the town's books. We can't change anything, we can't make entries, we can only look at it and generate reports. You don't want volunteers going in here making entries and changes in your books, and we don't want that. We just want to be able to look at it, create financial reports with the information that we would like, in the detail that we have gotten in the past and that we now think is important to bring forth to town meeting, to give the residents good information, a good recommendation for those who show up for town meeting, 40-some odd people, which another story, another day. We are in the process. We are trying, and I'm personally working on it on my own time. The committee is trying to come up with something besides a yes or no recommendation for town meeting. We think they're entitled to it. The committee feels it would be better for them. Besides a yes or no recommendation, a written paragraph type format of why we're recommending. What will this article, what will this land donation for open space mean? Why do we think it's a good idea? What's the benefits of it? And also, on the flip side, have what I call a minority report, a written paragraph style type thing of anyone, member of the committee who votes not to recommend for the article. Why do you vote no? What's your reasons? What do you think the outcome will be that makes it not beneficial for the town? The challenge is to get all the information in a timely manner, discuss it, organize it, produce that report in time for town meeting. We plan on getting something done for this town meeting coming up. It will be a work in progress. Advisory has requested a larger budget this year than has been requested in a good number of years to try to pay for, one idea we have is to try to mail out the report to using the voter list for people who have attended town meeting so they can gather this information in as far advance as possible, and that is another one of the challenges. So if they have questions or they have concerns, they can look that up, they can come to a meeting and ask, they can prepare themselves and write questions down and come to town meeting prepared to have a debate, which I believe that's the real basis of town meeting. It's not just to go there, and I know most people want to go in, yes, no, and leave. It's not the idea behind town meeting. You're supposed to be able to go there and kick things around and talk about why and how you're spending your money. And advisory committee feels that the better report that they can give with more information to better inform the residents, we are fulfilling our obligation, which is required by town bylaws and state law. And we feel the voters, the people who show up, are entitled to that information. But the challenges are obtaining the information, putting it in a format, voting for it, getting it put together in time for town meeting. And that will be a work in progress, and it will get better with each town meeting. And that's about it for advisory.
Question.
Unless Bob has anything, he is the vice chair.
Okay, now you hit everything I can think of.
Question? Question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, am I the only question?
Oh, no, there's another one. There's other questions.
Oh, well, please go.
You mentioned debate at town meeting. Really, really good. But I want to address this question to Detective Hall, being a town moderator. I see too many times somebody gets up there, they're sick of listening to it, and they want to move the question. I don't know how to resolve that, but I think it's wrong, and I don't know if the town moderator has any control over that to let the debate go on a little bit longer if somebody gets up there to, is that the right term, move the question, to stop the debate? I don't think it's right that people are allowed to do that necessarily, but I don't know if there should be if we could put a time limit on debate, or do you have any comments on that?
Well, there is. So you're allowed to move the question, and in order to do so, you have to have somebody in favor of the question and somebody against the question.
Okay.
Okay, so if we had one person speaking, or whatever, 10 people speaking, and they were all in favor of it, and nobody was against it,
yeah,
we would try to be fair. That's my job, just try to be fair to whatever the question may be.
Because I remember at the last town meeting, the most recent one, I don't remember what the issue was, but somebody got up and there been hardly any debate at all on the question. Somebody moved the question, and that was the end of it. And there were a lot of people that still wanted to talk about it. So,
what the town does with regards to the majority and the voting, what I would say to you is that if it is brought up, okay, to move the question, and majority of the people don't want to move the question, then vote no. And if the people want to move the question, then they vote yes. So I put it back on the town. It's not necessarily a moderator's decision.
Yeah.
It's more of the town's decision. And 9 out of the 10 times, the question's moved, and I agree, maybe some discussion's not brought up. However, that's not my decision.
Okay.
The majority of the vote said, yes, we want to move it, no, we don't want to move it, and it's back on them.
Okay, thank you.
Diane?
Yeah, I just want to be able to, Mr. Bennett can see me, so I wrote this down. And when our board takes a vote, and 3 vote yes and 2 vote no, it's irrelevant who voted no and why they voted no. we have to support the majority and figure out for ourselves how to do that. So I feel like, if 5 vote yes and 2 vote no, and you tell the rest of the people why they voted no, it's confusing. So there's no point in having a recommendation fully yes if you tell the people why the people voted no. I mean, again, there's 3 people who vote yes and 2 people who vote no. Don't you find that to be confusing? We have to support the yes vote or the no vote. I mean, there are a lot of times that we don't agree with whatever the majority is, but we can't then turn around and say, "Oh, you guys voted yes, and I can't believe that we're not allowed to have any more debate about that. We have to support." That's how we are unified.
But if I may, it's kind of almost like the Supreme Court when there's a decision. I think sometimes, this is why it was voted for, but this is why it was, we didn't support this. So I think just giving the two, both sides of the argument. I don't necessarily think it's saying that we don't support this. It's just saying, well, we didn't support this because of these were the reasons that we, may not have completely supported it. So I don't necessarily think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, that's what I was getting.
It's called the dissenting vote, and yes, it's kind of based on that, especially if we're a 7-member board, and if there are 4 yeses and 3 nos, and especially if it's a big or an important issue. Well, why are you voting no? Why did you vote not to recommend it? Maybe the dissenting vote have an opinion to give town meeting. It's an effort to give town meeting both sides of the story, not just the positive spin, both sides of the story, because this is not about the committee. This is about town meeting. All of the townspeople who are paying for the bills are going to have to abide by these rules, changes such as zoning, et cetera, et cetera.
Jeff, I got it. Jeff, we got it. This is not supposed to be a debate. This is just pretty much, I understand what you're saying.
She asked why we would do that, and that's our reason.
I got you.
It's not confusing. It's to provide as much information to town meeting as possible, so they can make a good, well-informed decision. It's not meant to confuse anything.
I got you. Thank you. When we do have other questions, we can pass them through the town administrator to get to the certain boards or committees, specifically that one, because I'd like some more information on that as well. I'll get them to Mr. Tanzini, then he can get them to your collective committee. But thank you so much for your input. I appreciate it. Health? Thank you, Diane, by the way. What we got? Capital plan. Okay. Oh, capital planning. Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. That's me.
That's me.
Sorry about that.
That's me. I came here to observe, and I'm capital planning.
How was capital planning?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Thank you. Progressive.
Excellent.
No, that's the one thing that I can say for capital planning this year. We actually have a quorum. We have 4 people who attend the meeting on a regular basis. That's new to the town, from my understanding. We've had a lot of cooperation going through this budget process, which is my first in capital planning. We've had a lot of cooperation from the departments that have come in. We've been asking them for more information than they normally have been asked for, and we've seen what I can only describe as a positive reinforcement, positive actions, positive comments from the departments that are coming in. And one of the things that we're trying to do as a committee that's, let's say, new for the town, and I would just momentarily take issue with what was stated earlier, that we have a functional capital planning group. We have a quorum, we have ability to vote, but we are, just at the beginning process of getting all the capital assets together so that we even know what toys we have to play with, really. We need to find out what we own, so that we can give the suggestions to the Board of Selectmen, who can look at it and know what we actually have for assets and for values, so that we can plan for repairs and maintenance. But to answer Diane's coming question, I would say the biggest problem that we have is the lack of information up to this date on the assets of the town and a singular source to find them, or a source, where they are listed as in whole, in total. And additionally, on getting committee members. I joined capital planning last year basically so that they could vote before the spring town meeting. I mean, the spring town meeting again. The spring town meeting. And stayed on after the bylaw change and where, they reorganized the capital planning group so that we could more easily have a quorum. But since then, which I believe was May or June, we've had 2 citizen members spots and no applications. Nobody putting in any, interest. And it seems to be one of the issues for the town overall. But, I personally think capital planning is kind of where it all starts for the town. In the budgeting, the managing, the whole thing. But I do think we are moving forward. We're not there. We have a lot of interesting opinions, suggestions for capital planning, but we have a lot of work to do. And, I think capital planning is probably going to change a little bit over the next year, be a little bit more expansive, more meetings, because we got a lot of work to do just to get to step 1. Getting all those assets together.
Great.
Any questions?
No, you answered mine. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
I'm actually going to defer. The boards I serve and the committees I serve are here, so I'm going to let them speak.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I was going to say, thanks to Lori and Mallory, I think the Board of Health runs very smoothly within themselves and with all the other departments in town. They keep up on all the inspections and the duties that they need to perform. We've had some really great successful bulky waste days, which are awesome because they were gone for a little while. Right now, our biggest challenge is our 3rd board member has moved out of town, so we need to find somebody to replace him for the rest of his term, which will be at the end of this year, or voting year. And somebody to run for Board of Health that would support the department. Did I answer your question?
Why do you need someone to run for the Board of Health?
Yes. No, that's our biggest challenge. Luke moved, our 3rd member. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you for answering my question.
You want to say something?
Me?
On how well the Council on Aging's doing the past year? All the fun concerts and the animals that go in there and all the fun things you do over there? Yoga?
First, I would like to thank all my fellow department heads. I think this past year we've always worked well together, but I think there's been more collaboration this year, and it's thanks to Carter because he very much promotes that. But I think we have worked more together this past year than ever, and I would like to applaud all my fellow department heads and thank them. Just this past weekend, we had an incident where the fire department, the police department, and myself had to work way into the night together. And it was a very good experience. And I thank them for that. The Council on Aging is doing well. We have a lot of diverse things going on. We're working more with the library. We are currently working with the school system. We're going to, in the near future, have artwork from the kids over at the school on our walls. and we're going to have an open house for the kids, just as we would for any other artist. So that's pretty exciting. The art teachers are very excited that the kids are going to have another forum to show their artwork. So I think that's very exciting. We've been closed several days here of recent because of the weather. Tomorrow is another day because of the snow. The schools are being closed in several communities, and I've already been notified that Gans's is going to be closed, so we have no transportation. Meals on Wheels most likely won't be served either. We are seeing a lot more need for supplemental heat, just as Jessica is, and it's harder to come by this year because so many people are in need, and we've had such a hard winter already. I am losing some drivers, and we are reducing transportation, and that does affect our veterans. And a lot of the problem with the veterans, especially a couple of them, is they wait till the very last instant to call us and tell us that they need a ride. They're late.
Even I had to give her an idea. Our biggest challenge is finding an activity that will interest the seniors. Yes.
I can find something that will interest a few, and then the next time you try to do the same activity because it's an ongoing monthly thing, forget it. Food will always draw them in. I can't afford to feed them every time. So I'm always open for new ideas. We do have a lot of success. Yoga is a big draw. We're looking for a Tai Chi instructor.
That's a big draw in Newburyport. They work there once in a while. So the Tai Chi, I love it.
Bingo is a big draw. Pitch, cribbage.
Oh my God, I used to play that.
So 4 out of 5 days we have a big crowd. I'd like to have a big crowd morning and afternoon.
Wow. All you need now is Queen of Hearts. You'd be good to go. Did I say it out loud?
Can I ask, how many is a big crowd of our seniors in town that actually go over to one of those, like the pitch, or, when you say big crowd, like?
30 people.
30?
Yeah, between 30 and 35 for cribbage, 20 to 25 for bingo.
That's it for bingo, huh?
Pardon?
That's it for bingo, huh? 20,
Wait,
25?
it,
You would think they'd all be coming out for that. No? When do we offer it? What time of day?
The stakes aren't that big.
The stakes. I'm just surprised.
Cameron's laughing because he's not even close to that age.
We have an elderly town.
They're very apathetic.
But, so when is bingo offered, is my question. When do you offer bingo?
They dictate when they're coming. It's every Wednesday from 12:30 to 3 o'clock. Do not change the day or the time, or you have caused a
2.5
ruckus.
hours and it's nap.
Yeah. Pardon? I'm telling you. If you try to change the dime or the day,
You were asking for suggestions.
I know.
Obviously, 12:30 to 3 o'clock is not a good time to have bingo in our community. But that's just my opinion. I'm entitled, so.
Yes, you are. And
Okay.
I've tried to change it, but
Julie, you want to go?
It's the,
I work.
like
I'm not that old yet. Sorry.
oh, bingo mafia. All right. Nice.
Oh, good job, Tyrone.
Thanks,
So
Doug.
I have 35 volunteers, and I couldn't run the place without them.
And the food pantry is working well?
Oh, yeah, it's fabulous.
Great.
Yeah.
I know, I know you'll be probably working with the scouts this month. We're going to be doing a can drive this month, going door to door.
Excellent.
At the end of this month, so
Oh my God,
Excellent.
they'll
Just
dress
saying.
for it.
No.
They're dressed for it.
Okay, that's
But that will be coming by the end of the month, and you'll be notified. I think either Mr. Hill or somebody will notify you,
Awesome.
okay, when that's going to take. But we get about probably like 20-something scouts going door to door. We're going to spread them out between the 4 districts,
Yep.
and we'll all converge.
We always get a lot of canned goods. That's awesome.
Yep, so that's happening this month. All right. Who's next?
Fire chief.
Fire chief.
He's like,
Hey, Chief.
awesome, it's my turn.
Oh, yay. Well, this year, being the new chief, still being in my first year, I really decided to take a fresh set of eyes at the top to kind of take a look at the whole organization, on what we do, how we get it out to the citizens in town, and look at our equipment, which, just like Alan, is aging. You know, everything we do is based on NFPA rules or OEMS, which is on my ambulance side of the house. You know, they all dictate the rules and don't give us any money after they tell us what we have. So, been working recently on our capital plan, and did go to the capital committee and everything, and presented some stuff that I've been working with Carter on a more functional capital plan for showing what we really need year to year on our equipment. So that's just about ready. I'm waiting for a couple vendors to get me back some pricing, and I've got those pricing. So when I talk at our next budget meeting this week, that be ready to bring it to him for review on that. We do have, you know, our equipment is old. They say that our fire truck should last 20 years in frontline equipment, and then possibly another 5 in reserve. Most of our equipment is getting to that age. Even the fire truck that we got donated a couple of years ago is getting up to be the age where it looks to go in reserve and not as a frontline piece. As everyone knows, you know, we have the ambulance, and we are working with the state on a plan for our ALS, and we're supposed to go to 24-hour coverage starting July. Right now, I have one full-time firefighter paramedic who's in the academy. At this point in time, he should be graduating at the end of February. Then I have him back full-time. He's 16 hours a day right now for our shifts, moving to 24s when we move. The plan is to hire 2 more firefighter medics, and hopefully, knock on wood, I can get them trained and not have to put them through the academy. And we'll hit the ground running. If not, a lot of the style that was brought up before I became chief was a per diem style, which we hired temporary employees. Sometimes those work great, but sometimes they really don't. You know, we're not their primary focus, so if they can get overtime at another job, they're not going to take pay with us. So sometimes that's really difficult to work with. But I do have a good group of per diem people that are coming in to do shifts for the town. So the town is getting the best coverage we can get right now. Really good, highly trained people. So just kind of working, we're bringing in some new things, trying to consolidate to make things easier, and Sergeant Hall can attest to it. We brought some new software in town now. You don't have to come to the fire station to get a burning permit, as simple as that sounds. You don't have to call to activate it. You can do everything online. If you're savvy enough with the computer to go to the website, you can see right away if we're allowing burning or not. You can do everything. Print it right at home, not have to come to the station. If you come to the station, we're more than happy to help you, and we'll work with you, and we'll get it done and explain how to do it. But with that program, it's really starting to work well with dispatch. They see instantaneously if I have a burning permit sold, and if the person activated it. There's no more miscommunication. I'm not getting a list of dispatch on who's allowed to burn and who can't burn. So, along with working with dispatch and the police, they were, through a 911 grant, able to get us fire reporting software. We're just starting to get that going. That's going to make reporting to the state and national so much easier, to make applying for grants that much easier. Right now, we had no software. Everything was done by hand on paper to get our reporting done. We were doing the minimum we had to, which didn't really get to where we needed to be for the grants. This is going to help tremendously for that. Instead of having to file for hours looking through paperwork, run reports easily, try to kill less trees. So I'd have to say that our biggest hurdles coming up is going to be finishing the conversion to 24-hour coverage for ALS and really providing the best service for the town with it. I truly do believe that that's the best service for the town, is to go the route of ALS. It not only puts paramedics in place, but those paramedics are trained firefighters. It gives me crews. It's harder and harder every year to get volunteers, to get people that work other jobs and be able to come in. The demographics are changing. For me to get someone that will say they can be on a call department, they don't live in town anymore like they used to when we had the mills running and everything that can come down. We went from a time that my department was 100% town residents to it's smaller and smaller every year. The per diem people, they're coming from out of town. They don't live in town. And even when I have them in town, they're moving out of town. Or they work so far away that their availability isn't there. So that's really going to be the hardest to make that work, our biggest challenge.
Great. Thanks, Chief. Anybody have questions for Chief?
What is your biggest challenge being a newer chief? What has been your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge is learning my department and my community in a whole different way. As a deputy chief, and actually as a firefighter, and moving my way up through all the ranks, yeah, I had responsibility, but I had the responsibility for the people. I didn't have the responsibility really for the system. Now, that's changed. So it's been a very big learning curve for me to let other people try to do things and try to give them what they need to accomplish that mission that I give them. I was one that went on the calls, tried to help everybody that was in the community. Now, one of my hardest things is letting my people do that job and me not necessarily being the person that you're going to see on the street helping you. That's been a very tough transition for me.
I think that we're lucky that you already had a good relationship with the community and with other departments, and good for you. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Actually, if I may, I don't know if I'm right in asking this, but if we can take a couple second moment of silence. I had a retired firefighter that put in, still trying to get the entire years he put in, but I know it's well over 20 years he put on the department and service to this community. Passed away yesterday.
Oh, okay, absolutely. Let's take a quick moment of silence.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm so sorry, Chief.
Sorry, Chief. All right, Mr. Moderator.
I really don't have too much. No,
You're the
it's
town
because you're so moderate.
You don't
Things
know.
good. Things good, moderator. Things good.
Even you.
I just try to be fair, try to be, give everybody their attention that they deserve. I would say that the town probably has some issues that need to be addressed, but I am not a political person. I am not one to put my opinion in so much. I just try to be fair and kind of neutral. What I can say is that, a lot of the issues that have come to me or, come up all the time or whatever, they're getting better. They definitely are. You've heard a lot of them tonight. A lot of the discussions that we have here tonight come before the town floor, whether it be money, whether it be, whatever, that's usually the biggest one, but whatever it may be. That's not my opinion. I'm just trying to do it fair and have somebody that if you have the microphone, okay, it's yours, whatever. So I really don't have too much. I don't know if I have any major challenges, because you're gonna ask me that. It's just, there are several things that you probably won't change, or I don't know how to change with regards to a challenge. For example, and this is coming from a moderator's side of it, we have a very big article, very big issue, okay? Whatever it may be, I don't care, all right? We have the entire auditorium, we have the maybe the cafeteria, the gym, we have all of them stacked. And as soon as that's done, everybody leaves. Well, that's, you'll never change that, right? Well, before they leave, of course, they vote to see that it can't come back up again before everybody leaves, right? Okay, then everybody leaves, okay? And I can remember on a couple of occasions, I never dismissed or took a break or anything like that. This meeting is still in session. Everybody gets up and leaves. Well, it's no different than his article or his or hers or, whether it be major, so if you're gonna come, you're gonna vote. That's coming from a moderator side, okay? Because if it wasn't as important, then it wouldn't be on the articles. It wouldn't be there to vote on.
That's a hot spot with a lot of people.
Absolutely, absolutely. So getting the people there, okay, that's another challenge, all right? Now, as moderator, I don't want anybody to show up, okay? Well, it's a lot easier for me. Listen, I need 2 people to have a meeting, that's it. So when you all show up, it's just that much harder for me, especially if you can't get along.
We're sorry.
Right, okay? So, that's one of the challenges is yes, there should be more people attending these meetings, and there should be more input, okay? I know some information's been trying to be given out ahead of time for discussion, and there's some discussion there. But again, that's not me, that's the town. I'm there just to make sure it runs properly and it's run fair. Those would be town challenges, and I have no complaints. I would say that any of the ones that have happened so far, they've only got better as we've been going along, so.
I think everyone in this room agrees with you, Derek, that there should be more people at the meetings. I think that we all say it, but I think in my tenure in coming, since I've come back to town, it doesn't matter if it's a light and water article, or a police article, or a fire article, or it happens. I would love to see more people there, and that every article matters, every financial article, every, open space committee article, it affects us all, but I've tried for years to get people to come, and I don't know how to do it. I think that, Cameron wants to attract, the younger crowd, I shouldn't say
It's not the easiest thing.
younger, or, okay, so now I can say I want the older crowd there, but,
Yeah, if we serve beer at the town meeting, we can probably get
maybe
more
we
people.
should bring food. Maybe we should play bingo, I don't know. It's funny, but it's not funny, because, I feel like, it's about honor and duty and a sense of belonging, and I'm not really sure where that went. There is fewer and fewer people that come, and maybe it's the feuds that happen, or, people get emotional at town meeting because it's articles that people care about and that they're passionate about, and, I'm definitely one of them, so. I don't know. And I believe that you are fair and impartial, and that you abide by the rules, and we're fortunate to have you.
Certainly try. Thank you.
Okay.
Last guy, right?
You are.
All right. Well, probably the junior member in this room as far as town government goes. I was expecting some other members of my department here, but like you, I guess I was chosen to speak for the rec department, so I'll do my best. So moving forward, the rec department has been heavily involved, obviously, in Gilman Waite, and we are hoping that that is going to be coming to a close this springtime with the finishing of the bathrooms. Scott Dill, who is away at Maynard tonight, by the way, Narragansett's 8-1 in their men's side, and
I'm so sorry.
Benny Raymond just scored 1,000 points on Friday night for
I know,
us.
that was so exciting.
So it's good stuff. So get out and see a game if you can. But anyway, I digress. Moving forward, Scott Dill was able to procure some kitchen equipment from a place in New Hampshire for a very, very nice price. And we're talking a lot of nice stainless steel kitchen pieces. I believe you guys were able to see it, I think. So we're hoping to install that. So we're looking at potentially having a full-fledged kitchen up in the snack shack at Gilman Waite with full bathrooms and some items that we have discussed beyond the youth rec sports program that we're charged with is really expanding the recreational opportunities well beyond just the youth to all citizens. And I'm happy I came here today. I'm listening to veterans, I'm listening to culture, I'm listening to aging, and I'm saying to myself, geez, we should all get together and throw a big concert up at Gilman Waite, and and that's the way we bring the community together, So I'm happy to be here to get some of these ideas just flowing. But these are the types of things that we're looking at moving forward is expanding the use of Gilman Waite well beyond just the youth soccer program in the fall or the softball program in the spring, but to really bring it to the whole community and provide opportunities for everybody. Beyond that, something else that we discussed once we get Gilman Waite out of the way is, we are well aware that we have other parks and other areas in town that need some work done on them, and we hope to move forward on that. I know that Scott's talked with you, Al, quite a bit on a lot of this stuff, and we certainly haven't forgotten those, but a lot of our time has been taken up by Gilman Waite for good reason, but that's coming to a close again, we hope this spring into the summer, and some ideas that are bantered about is having a community movie night. You can rent those big blow-up screens and just get, that's just an idea, but just other ways, concerts that was mentioned, you bringing the concerts in, perhaps you could have them at Gilman Waite for the community. I'm not sure all that would work out, but
I've got the popcorn machine.
fantastic. We're going to have the hot dog maker inside, so off we go. And beyond that, if we're able to bring these community ideas in, we're hoping to offer out the snack shack to different organizations and groups as fundraisers. Maybe it's a youth soccer, maybe it's a softball, maybe it's the football team at Narragansett, but just different ways to allow them to come in and run that snack shack for a night and make some money for their programs. And that's just some other ideas that we've had. So that's it. As far as challenges, it would be definitely getting somebody else here to talk about this stuff. that didn't happen.
Nice.
Honestly, the challenges that we do have actually though is getting people to come in. We do offer a stipend for those to run the youth soccer and run the youth basketball, but it is a challenge to get people in to do that because it's not a massive amount of money and it's a lot of work. So that's certainly a challenge we have is getting people in to actually run these. Getting coaches typically is not a problem for the rec programs. Most parents are definitely willing to step up and volunteer. Sometimes it's even more than we need. But getting the people to actually run everything is a challenge. That's it. Thank you.
Great.
Question. Sorry, actually, I just had something. I just want to say that I have obviously been still listening to things in the background and, before I had my challenges. I'm so excited for all of you and how the excitement that you bring to the rec department and to the community. It's overwhelmingly joyous.
Thank you.
And I've been working with Alan for a while on playgrounds and that kind of stuff. So we've still been talking about those, and Scott Dill is just
Scott's great.
like boom, like right in your face.
Yeah, Scott's great. He'll get
And
the
I
job
love
done.
it. I love it, so thank you all
Yeah,
so much.
thank you.
Great. Anybody else have any questions or comments to make to the group?
Yes, John, thank you for doing all of this.
Oh, no. I appreciate it. This is, the main agenda of this whole thing was to, get us all together as a group and discuss our issues and hopefully our, progression going forward. But there's always a hidden agenda to everything, especially to my madness. And does anybody know what it is? Apparently not. Well, this is an exercise of team building. It goes way, way back. I mean, I used it in the Army for the longest time, and it's getting everybody together to not only discuss what they're doing moving forward and how we are today, but how we are as a community, because we all care about this community in different aspects, from recreation and to tomb restoration, to sewer department, to, the Board of Selectmen, highway. We're all here for the same purpose, and that's to make sure that we keep ourselves and our residents safe, things are going the right way, we all have lights and power, we flush the toilet, things go away, I don't know where they go, but that's what it's all about. It's team building. The Board of Selectmen did vote in a new policy. It's the lapel pin policy. It was a policy that I had some real near and dear to my heart, because again, as small as a token as a little lapel pin, that brings a lot of ownership to what you do in this community. It's just a small token that to have pride in, that you belong to a great community. You have great people around us. We're all doing great things for Templeton and making it better for tomorrow, because that's what it's all about. I mean, with all my kids, they're all going to school, so I want to make sure they're all successful here in town. So again, I really do appreciate everybody and what everybody's doing and how you're doing it. I will be passing out your lapel pins, so everybody will get one. But does anybody have anything else? Yes, Mr. Templeton.
Could I just first thank you to all the volunteers here tonight. Certainly the community can't survive without you. You bring energy and creativity, and that's critical. The biggest challenge that I heard many of you talk about was people don't understand what we do. Or we want to make sure everyone knows what they're voting on. Or we need members for our groups. And one of the things that we can try to do to help you on that when you have these kinds of challenges is on the communication side. It's important that you, if you're a standalone committee, or your department head, if you have a staff that supports you, like Board of Health is supported by Lori, make sure that they're getting into the weekly report. And one of the things that I've learned is there's no one method of communication, especially today when things are so fractured across social media and newspapers and TV and just word of mouth. So, if we make sure that things are getting into the weekly report, if you have something that you think can carry a longer conversation, I'm trying to do the 1 hour talk of the town. We had the chairman, we had the school committee, the school superintendent. Steve helped me do the pre-town meeting. This month coming up, we've got the fire chief. And so that's a tool. If there's something that really needs a little more visual demonstration, we have, truthfully, a fairly robust public access. We might have to get Steve out in the field a little bit more, but he's got the camera, he's got the editing equipment. It helps us get that word out. And finally, if you think it makes sense and you're willing to help carry your side of it, I've done a Citizens Academy in some time, which has had varying levels of success depending upon the community, where we have the finance team one night talk with the community, so that Luann gets to speak to, and our Board of Assessors get to speak to, how do we assess values? And we go right from the ground up. How do we account for the money? How do we set a tax rate? To help the citizenry, it takes about four to 6 nights, depending upon how we split it up. help the citizenry understand the rules and regulations y'all are operating, and it's so nice with Eric, because I now have a second person at Town Hall that says y'all. It helps, people understand the challenges and the rules and the regulations. And finally, we did it with the census. We put a flyer in there. One talked about process. The selectmen have authorized us to have a conversation about the meals tax. We're getting the information out. We're going to have public hearings. And whatever the final decision is, the process is important. And on the flip side, we had the piece about Winchendon now letting folks use the transfer station. Didn't take us long to put those together. And we've actually had 12 Templeton residents go up and get those stickers in Templeton and buy those bags. So, to get 12 folks who actually acted off of a flyer that we sent us, I'll take that rate of return. It's not quite 1%. But so if there are anything on the communication side, we encourage you to think about those, take advantage of those tools that we have, help us think of new tools. And I once was accused of being willing to walk up and down the street with a sandwich board strapped to my back if that's what it took. But truly, that is the kind of thing that we have to do because everybody's lives are so busy. And I thank you for giving part of your lives to tonight in your efforts.
Great, thanks, Carter.
I just want to say too that as you all went around the room, I heard a lot of positive stuff like that you're all doing, and I feel like the community doesn't hear enough of that, and I want to figure out a way to do that. I had talked to Carter about public briefings, just look at all the grants that you did, I've been trying to keep up in the background. I don't know if those end up in the weekly report, but those should be things that the public hears about. And, I just sent a thank you to Alan and the crew for the epic storm that they had a hard time keeping up with. So on the flip side, I think that I saw a lot of, oh my gosh, how come we couldn't keep up with it? How come the roads look like, well, here's the reasons why. So, but again, there was a lot of positive stuff that came out, and I just think that the community really does need to know, there's always, and if you get a bad meal at a restaurant, you tell 10 people, but when something good happens, you maybe tell nobody. So I would rather hear the community see some of all this good stuff that you are all doing, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan. Anyone else have anything to add? See none. Can I take a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Ayes have it. Thank you all for coming. I really do appreciate it.